Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the very first episode of CTQ Weekly that we are doing live and via video at our YouTube page. If you're listening to this on the podcast, then disregard all of this because it means absolutely nothing to you. But if you are listening or watching on YouTube, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Paul Laporte. Joining me for this launch, this inaugural edition, my co-host, Mike Miner.
What's going on, guys?
And we are going to be talking... Boy, it was a slow news week, huh, Miner?
Yeah.
Not much went on this week.
To say the least, yeah.
So we're going to have to just try and fill time with bullshit, essentially. No, of course not. The biggest news item of this week, WWE confirms the brand split between Raw and SmackDown. We have hopped in the DeLorean. We're going back to 2000 and... What was it?
Two?
Jesus Christ, that was a long time ago. That brand split went for a while. I forgot. So we're going all the way back a decade and a half ago almost. And
it kind of petered out a couple of years ago. It didn't even, just end. It just kind of like,
That's
we're going to start throwing everybody together.
Yeah, they never really had an official, brand split is done,
Yeah, they just basically said, oh, yeah, we're going to merge the two championships. And they still, did whatever, but that was it. And even before then, it ran a while with both championships. It's just weird.
Yeah, and then it just kind of faded off into obscurity. It's a different animal now. It's a lot different promotion than it was 15 years ago. The roster is insanely deep. They have a developmental territory.
Even in the last 4 years, it's a lot different than it was. With the rise of NXT and, all the, like you said, the developmental.
Right. I mean, they have, what they have now is so deep that they can, instead of having, Rob Conway and Sylvain Grenier as your guys on SmackDown.
You're going to rip on the Con Man?
I mean, compared to guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and AJ Styles, I mean, they have a really, really deep roster of talent now, and it can support
Rob Conway. All you had to do was just look at him.
Look at me. It can support a roster split now.
He was a sight to see.
So let me ask you, how do you think that they're going to do this? How would you do it? This is kind of like a preview. We're looking to do some sort of mock draft at CTQ here. It's just a matter of finding out who can do it, when, and where. I believe representing SmackDown is going to be our SmackDown recapper, Earl Marks. And because Daniel Peruzzi works weird Las Vegas vampire hours, representing Raw is either going to be you or I, Mr. Miner. So we're going to try and do a mock draft split here, a mock draft for the brand split. And then we're gonna do that a little later on in the week. But how would you do it in terms of not really who goes where, because that'll be discussed next week, but really the most interesting things that are going to come out of this are the women's division and the tag division. Do you split those over the two shows? Do you keep them on their separate brands, move the women's division to SmackDown, move the tag division to Raw or something like that? How would you handle that?
Tag division, women's division, make them go across brands. Have the main champion, the world champion, go across brands. U.S. and Intercontinental champion, keep on two separate shows. Perhaps at some point you have, at least once a year, the IC champ, the U.S. champ go head-to-head against each other and then get a championship shot against the heavyweight champ. I think that could work at some point. It just depends where they're going to place that in the year.
I don't know. Do you think that the women's division has enough for...
Oh, yeah. You know what? We were talking a couple of weeks back about should the women get their own show, and...
Right.
Now
that's about consolidating, not splitting.
Well, now that they have two shows, they do have I think they have a large enough, roster to where they can fill a couple of shows with a couple each, instead of trying to, fit in a bunch of them on, two shows with, you know what I mean? Like, there's two
I
separate
know,
brands.
yeah,
You
no,
can fit more in on each brand.
I get what
Have
you're
more
saying.
badges.
It's just, I don't know. I mean, because I was discussing this with my wife last night, who's very interested in the women's division, and she kind of felt, and I kind of agree that like 16's the magic number. Like you have to have at least 8 on each show. Like you
Yeah,
have to have 8 on Raw, 8 on SmackDown, and unless they really raid NXT hard based
and
on the women who are out with injuries and stuff like that, they don't have that. They only have like 10 or 11 right now. So
yeah,
if
and
they split, it's gonna be like 5 women on each show. Is that enough for 2 divisions with 2 titles?
no, and that's what I was going to get to. Is what they have to do is they have to develop a bit of talent, a little bit, develop talent a little bit more down in NXT, bring some up, but like you said, there's injuries going on, and you'd have to rate it a little bit. It's going to leave them a little bit dry down in NXT, so it's a catch-22. You can bring them up to the main roster, fill out SmackDown and Raw with, like you said, 8 each, 10 each, and go from there. But you'd have to have a women's division at NXT as well. But they had enough to fill up a battle royal, but after they rated
Yeah,
NXT,
but that's like using people
are
like
they going to have enough to fill up a battle royal after that?
yeah, but that's like using people like Aaliyah and people who were just in there and
Liv
brand
Morgan,
ass new. And I mean, technically, that's 3 divisions you have to fill out for the women.
Peyton Royce, exactly. So it's, I don't know. Maybe they'll have to have 6 on each or something, but who knows? I mean, it's a strange dilemma they're in as far as the women's division goes. But like we mentioned earlier, they have resources to pluck people out of the indies, and then they can always go to the indies and bring somebody in.
True. I mean, they could sign more women.
Styles.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, who would you sign from the women's scene that they haven't already?
Oh boy. I always invoke the name Havoc.
Yeah, okay. Jessica Havoc's a good pick. I mean,
That's
they can try and raid TNA and snag like Gail Kim or Mia Yim or somebody.
I think Kim's done with them.
Is she
With,
really?
WWE. Yeah. She, did you hear about the story from a couple of years
Oh,
back?
you mean done? She's not. You don't think she'd go back to WWE? Is what
I
you're
don't think so.
Okay.
Unless they paid her a bunch of money and she said, "Look, I want to be on the shows. You guys got to do something with me." That's the best I can say. I think she's done because she had such a underwhelming last run with them. She exited the Battle Royal herself that she was in.
Yeah,
and
but that company is so fucking different now than it was when she was there.
I know. And you're right. Maybe, she can get back into the fold, but I think she just had it the last time she was there.
Yeah, I don't know.
But,
like I said, it's so
anytime there's
different.
a door, somebody's, they might be willing to go through that door and go back into the fold. So, Vince has forgiven people for much, much larger crap. So, the door could be open for her. She possibly would want to go back. I don't know. I can't speak for her. But, Vince, he's always open to anything as long as it makes money and it's good for the business, I guess.
Now, we have in the chat room CTQ contributor Antoine Clay. He suggests to use the NXT Women's title on one show to showcase them. So have the women's title, the WWE Women's title on one, and the NXT Women's title on another. So to kind of have, which isn't a terrible idea. That's not a bad idea, and that does kind of solve the we don't have enough people problem, because you have on Raw, we'll say, you have Charlotte and Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch and everybody who's currently in that division, and then you could have SmackDown and say, hey, on SmackDown we're going to have Asuka and Alexa Bliss and Carmella and whatnot. Not a bad idea. It certainly solves the not having enough bodies problem. It's just, man, how many of those women in NXT are really ready to be performing in front of 5,000 to 10,000 people on a live show?
I think it's also going to take what's special about NXT and take it away, because
yeah, that's true. You would be kind of hurting NXT at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing that you want to keep on the network and kind of keep it there. I mean, when Kevin Owens came up with the NXT Championship, he wasn't defending the NXT Championship every week that he was up there with.
No.
But, you want to keep that relegated to where it belongs on the network. You have something to watch on there, look forward to, and if you bring that up to the main roster, who's going to care about it if it's going to become a mainstay on the main roster? It's just going to become another belt on another show, and it's going to lose, its meaning, I guess.
I don't know. See, if it's me, I think you do.
You can do a couple matches here and there,
I
but
think I think you. Well, no. Keep NXT and NXT,
yeah,
and then move the women's division to one show, move the tag division to another show, and then do it that way rather than splitting them both up. Because I think then at that point, on say you keep the women's division on Raw, you have now time for the women's division that you usually had to dedicate towards tag teams, and then on SmackDown you have time that you can dedicate towards tag teams that you would have normally dedicated towards the women's division. So each division gets more time. Neither division is particularly deep at this point, so I just don't know if it could handle having two divisions for either of them without really, really diluting the pool. And then then each show has kind of its own unique thing as opposed to just being different guys in different shows. You're actually getting different match types at this point.
I just think that there is a deep enough roster for the tag teams. They've been filling them out nicely. I think that's part of the reason they're doing this brand split is to give more opportunity and more room to some of these divisions, and the tag team division's growing week by week, and it's not going to be impossible to fill out that side of things. The women's division is going to be a little bit tougher, but after a little while, I think they'd be able to do cross over to each show. The champions cross over to each show. But like I said, I like the idea of it was weird to me years ago when they had two tag team championships, because
that's what I feel like splitting that up just kind of dilutes everything.
Back then it was, the teams weren't even that great. Hi, Milo. The tag teams weren't even that great.
Yeah, no, they
not
they
taking
were not
anything
at all.
away from those guys, but they kind of threw a lot of teams together and expected that to fly. I mean, what was the best team we had? Caden Murdoch. And,
Jesus Christ!
Wow. Caden Murdoch and what was the other one? The Bashams. I mean, they had the world's greatest tag team, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, Haas and Benjamin. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, who else can you really think of? I'm having
God,
kind of a hard
I don't
time.
know. I don't even remember because I wasn't watching as heavily WWE at that time.
Yeah, but you know what? You were watching back then. I mean, they had Kendrick and London.
London and Kendrick, yeah, okay.
They had, I mean, that's the thing, though, is you were watching. I was watching
I just don't
as well,
remember, yeah.
That's exactly it. It was forgettable. And what did they have? Kenzo Suzuki and Rene Dupree as tag champs one time? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, I mean, they got a more padded roster now with the tag teams than they did back then.
They definitely do, but is it still enough for two
championships.
divisions?
I mean,
because
they have enough. I mean, it's...
They barely have 8 tag teams that are really used. I mean, you have New Day, Vaudevillains, Enzo, and Cass.
They also threw a bunch of teams together back
Dudleys.
then, and they were kind of crappy.
Primo and Epico, that's 5.
If they wanted to, they can get certain guys back together. They can get the primetime players back together. If they wanted to do that, they can also get... who else am I thinking of offhand that they can get back together?
I mean, Gallows and Anderson, there's 6, so we're at 6 active tag teams.
Yes.
Ascension, I guess if and when Connor comes back, would be 7.
I'm blanking out here on another tag team, but
I don't know if it's for both the women's and the tag teams. I don't know.
But how many tag matches take up a show anyway?
Yeah, but that's the thing is you want to give this stuff more time. Like I feel like if you keep the women's on one and the tag division on the other, like I said, that then now each show has kind of a different feel to it as opposed to, hey, this is the show that Seth Rollins is on and this is the show that Kevin Owens is on. Instead of that, it's, oh, hey, this is the show that has women's wrestling and this is the show that has tag wrestling. Like I almost feel like they'd be a little bit better off doing that and letting each show have kind of a unique feel.
I guess. But like I said, I think if you have tag teams cross over, that'd be fine. You kind of have, maybe you have the tag champs go crossover, but maybe you have the tag division on one side, a tag division on the other side, and do it like that. not have the tag teams cross over all the time, but tag champs cross over to each division, but each roster have their own tag teams.
Okay, so
But,
we're split on that, and that's the thing is we're not going to know probably for a while, until probably early July. What's
how
going
do
to
you
happen?
feel about each division or each roster having their own secondary champion? How do you feel about that? I think that would work fine.
What do you mean?
If you have the U.S. champ on one show, you have the
Oh
Intercontinental
yeah,
champ on another show.
that's the biggest no-brainer of all of this.
And at some point, you have those two champions go at it to try to go after the world championship. How do you feel about that?
I don't
Maybe
know.
do something like a number one contendership.
Personally, I think that
Because I think that would work. Maybe like the pay-per-view before SummerSlam, you have the two champs go at it next year, and then SummerSlam pay-per-view, whoever comes out on top of that, they go into SummerSlam, get a championship shot at the champion. Just like kind of like the Royal Rumble, where
I don't know.
the last person standing, they go to WrestleMania and they get the championship shot at WrestleMania. How about something like that? I think something like that would work.
I feel like if this brand split's going to work, they need to keep the brands split, separate, for a good long while. I don't think that there should be any inter-promotional matches until WrestleMania. Like, not even SummerSlam. Maybe
I get that.
after this SummerSlam, then you have like SummerSlam and WrestleMania be like kind of the interpromotional shows or something like that. But I really don't want to see like a bragging rights or anything like that. It's just
bragging rights was just a weird idea anyway. I mean, look, here's the SmackDown roster, here's the Raw roster, here's a bunch of guys that normally wouldn't get along, but rah, we're gonna go for the team, and then
maybe we can do a Team Raw versus Team SmackDown at the Survivor Series for one match. But I really want the interplay between the two to be at a minimum, because we need to separate them. If this is going to work, you need to establish these as two separate things, because for the longest time now, for as long as a lot of fans have been watching wrestling, there hasn't been a brand split. So this is all they know, is all these guys fighting each other every week. They need to establish some sort of uniqueness before they start having them kind of cross-promote and cross-pollinate again.
My thing is, though, with the Team Raw, Team SmackDown thing, it's normally comprised of guys that would rip one another's heads off a lot of the time.
Right.
I don't like that.
No.
That
but
bugs
maybe you
the
could do
hell
like, I mean, yeah, I don't know, we'll see. I mean, there's more factions now, so like you could do like 2 tag teams from SmackDown and 2 tag teams from Raw, or if there's no tag teams on one show, you could do 2 tag teams versus like a stable or something like that. Like, you can make it work.
Or if they did something like, this team's going to get this prize. I mean, everybody knows it's set up, but still, you can make like, do you remember the ladder match back in '99? At
Team
Mercy
SmackDown gets a ham.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Ham is, from what I hear, is delicious. Sure. I kind of remember ham. But anyway,
I remember ham.
I remember ham. I want all the ham.
The ham, yes.
Anyway.
Antoine also suggested bringing back the cruiserweight / light heavyweight belt, which I think would be an interesting thing. I think if you... option 3, I guess, is a split tag teams, keep the women's division on one show, and then do the cruiserweight division on the other show. I think that could work.
I can see
know.
that working better.
Okay, so let's move on from how we would do the divisions to the question of...
There's a lot of different ways you can do it, so...
Right, of course. Here's the question of who would you bring up from NXT at this time to help fill out the rosters? Because they're going to have to. I mean, there was a rumored list that was produced this week that had like 19 people, like an insane amount of people being called up from NXT, but there's absolutely no validity to, like, if I just typed up a list and printed it out and posted it on Twitter, it would have been the same goddamn thing. Like, there's no credit to that whatsoever. There's no source, no nothing. But
we've already got the King of Strong Smile.
Apollo Crews.
He's grateful for the opportunity to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
I don't know. Who would you bring up? How many would you bring up? How willing are you to kind of gut NXT to help the two brands?
Balor. Balor would be the first one on my mind.
He's a no-brainer, I think. He's coming up.
Yeah. Nakamura would be another one.
Think so? Think you don't hold him down there for a little longer?
To kind of... I would want to keep him down there longer, but I can see them bringing him up. I keep him down there. Balor's a no-brainer. Bayley, they bring her up You got Asuka, you got Nia Jax down there, you've got Carmella, who's gaining steam every week. Uh, who else?
How about the Revival?
Peyton Royce, yeah, the Revival I think would be great going up. American Alpha, keep them down there for a little while longer.
Yeah, that's the thing is like you need to leave
Tricky.
some people behind, for sure.
And it's not like you can't have the Revival stay down there by having them beat American Alpha again for the Tag Team Championship.
They go hard
Maybe.
all day, all night. Something, ready to fight.
I say, yeah.
I don't know if that's like the best entrance music or the worst. Or
I say, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. So I'm thinking Finn's a gimme for sure. He's a lock. Bailey is pretty much a lock too to come up. Nia Jax, I can see them calling her up pretty early. Calling her up not that long from now, just because of her size and everything. I can see like the TNA signees, like Eric Young and Bobby Roode, kind of just leapfrogging NXT and going right to the main card because they're ready.
Did you say Aries?
Not Aries, but yes, Aries too. I think Austin Aries also.
Dependable hands, you know.
Yeah, Nakamura. If you're gonna do Nakamura, you need to make a big deal out of it. Like he needs to be like #1 pick from somebody. If you're gonna do him like 8th down the line or whatever, and as an afterthought, then I say hold him and wait until he can feel special. But he's a special talent, and he needs to be treated that way. And if he's not gonna be like I said, like a big deal, like #1 pick in the draft, Shinsuke Nakamura, then it almost doesn't feel worth it. So just hold on to him. And I mean, like there might be some stuff he can still teach people. Samoa Joe, I don't know. I feel like it's either Nakamura or Samoa Joe. Like you either keep the belt on Joe and move Nakamura up and have Joe continue to kind of just be the veteran and help kind of coach people down there, or you drop the belt to Nakamura, you bring Joe up, and then have Nakamura be the vet down there. I just don't think because if you bring both of those guys up, then who do you drop the belt to?
I'd say keep Nakamura and Joe down there for a little while, have them feud for a bit. But
I mean, they're definitely going to... I think that's going to be the match. Assuming that they're still doing TakeOver Brooklyn, which I really hope they are because I'm planning on going to it, and that they haven't changed plans, I see Nakamura and Joe being the match there. But I don't think either one of those guys is not staying past SummerSlam down there, at least. So, I don't know. There are so many different questions. Like, this is so much more interesting than it was initially.
It's like a candy store. You pick from here, you pick from here.
I mean, there are a million possibilities. Blake and Murphy coming up, Antoine. I don't know.
Didn't they get a stinger recently? Was it Murphy that wound up getting a stinger over the weekend?
Did he? Oh,
yeah,
that sucks.
I just read something about one of them getting a stinger.
I hadn't heard anything about that. In any case, Blake and Murphy, the problem, or assuming that they're both healthy, or they'll both be healthy in time for the draft. Man, I like them as a team, but I feel like they've almost kind of backslid. So I just don't know if you keep them down there or you bring them up and hope. Maybe they've just kind of done all they can do in NXT and it's time for them to move up. But it just feels like WWE's kind of lost faith in those two, and as a result, they've kind of lost faith in themselves. So I'm not sure that they're the way to go. Maybe you keep them down. Although if they don't bring Blake and Murphy up, then Blake and Murphy are getting cut within the next year.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Those guys are kind of obnoxious, kind of funny.
Oh no, I really like them. I liked them. I kind of liked them when they didn't really have a personality and they were just like, okay, just go in there and kick ass, you know.
But once they got that personality, I thought they were.
Oh no, I liked it on a character level, but then like WWE, you can only be like two different types of characters if you're a heel, and one of them is like the sniveling, incompetent cheaters, and that's just automatically what they became. Like they stopped being good wrestlers when they became heels, and that's always really frustrating and annoying to me. Like the Revival gets to be good wrestlers, but you can either be a badass or you're a sniveling, whining, incompetent baby, and you don't get to be anything else. And Blake and Murphy just got stuck with the bad end of that because they have kind of charisma and they're kind of funny and stuff. So I don't know. I think they have the talent, but I think that they're going to need some sort of like big time repackaging if they're going to succeed on the main roster.
By the way, just caught up to what we were talking about a few moments ago. Murphy suffered Stinger at the NXT live event in Coco. He
Okay.
took a knee and a super kick from Ty Dillinger. He
Oh
was slow
god
to get
damn it.
back. Yeah, he took the pin and was slow to get back to his feet.
Ty Dillinger is probably another guy you can bring up, assuming he
Yeah,
can prevent from killing anybody.
he's liable. So
Who can the people you bring up feud with? Man, there's so many choices. You have, God, if we're bringing up Nakamura, I have him feud with AJ like right away.
yes,
If we're bringing up, you can have the Revival bring up back their history with Enzo and Cass.
Samoa Joe and John Cena, I'd like to see.
Ooh, that's not a bad one. I think
That'd be
Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar would be
Yeah.
awesome too.
That'd be a bruiser of a
They're
match.
just, and plus, like, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and all these people have fought on the independents before. There was just so many choices, and in TNA and in Ring of Honor and whatnot, and there's just a million choices.
I mean, you've also got Ciampa and Gargano, and it's
Yeah, Gargano and Ciampa could probably come up fairly soon. TM61, who made their debut this past week, aka the Mighty Don't Kneel, they're not going to need to be in NXT for long. Those guys are fucking boss. They can hang on a main roster for sure. So there are a lot of choices. It's just a question of, I think that's the most interesting thing to me is how deep they're gonna gut NXT. Like how deep are they just gonna like fuck it, like everyone on NXT, you're going up, and then we're starting all over because this latest takeover is subtitled The End, which
I
is
think that's just because of the Samoa Joe
right.
and
It
Finn
is
Balor
just
feud,
it is probably.
so-
I think it's mainly that, but with this brand split coming up, I can see it meaning having something else. Like it's not like the promotion isn't like the developmental territory isn't folding. NXT is their hottest thing. They're not going to get rid of it.
People think that it's folding. I don't know
No,
why they're
that's
thinking it's folding. They just
ridiculous.
take it too literally.
That is
they read too
ridiculous.
much into it. But I think what's going to wind up happening is they're going to take a significant amount of talent, bring it up to the main roster because they're trying to push this whole new era thing. So
Right.
that's what they're going to do with that. They're going to fill the spots in down in NXT. They get some fresh blood in there, and they start the cycle over again.
Okay.
And if things work out for a lot of the guys on the main roster, they're sticking around next year. We're going to get back to those yearly cuts, I guess, because they didn't do them for a long time.
Yeah.
But now,
So now
unless
that
they
we
start expanding around the world, but
now that we've given half of our time to that subject, let's move on here.
let's make it quick.
Yeah. So Cody Rhodes obviously left WWE. We talked about that last week. Goldust announced that he is not following Cody and Cody's wife. He will be staying in WWE. Are you surprised by this? What are your thoughts?
He's his own man, so that's basically all there is to say about that. He's
Right.
got to He's got to keep his job. He's got to do what he's got to do. He's doing what he feels is right. He's in his 40s. He's what, 48, 47, 48?
He's up there.
He's in phenomenal shape. He's still going. He's probably having more fun than he's had in years doing this. So I can't
47.
blame-
Goldust.
There you
is.
go. I can't blame him for sticking around. So, he's
No, I don't blame him either, especially
got a
because he
second
is.
chance with this kind of life.
He is coming to the end of his career. When he retires, he's a lock for the Hall of
How
Fame.
many times has he been cut in the past?
Yeah,
I mean, he's
3,
gone back
4.
and forth with that company probably 5, 6 times.
Yeah. So he's a lock for the Hall of Fame for sure.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any sense for him to leave. And I don't think it's a thing where like Cody expects him to. Again, like you said, he's his own man, and I think that Cody's doing his own thing now. And as we've seen earlier on in the week, that Cody kind of put a list of people and people he wanted to face and things he wanted to do on Twitter, like the Battle of Los Angeles, Adam Cole, Moose, the Young Bucks, like working with a lot of different people. So he's already got a lot of plans. But Goldust, he's getting TV time. He's not gonna get any better money anywhere else. He's only got a couple years left on his career, and if he was to have left with Cody, that's gonna hurt his chances at the Hall of Fame pretty substantially, at least for a while. I mean, it would happen, but I mean, like if Goldust retires, he's probably going in the Hall the next year, or within 2 years. Like it's not gonna be long that Dustin Runnels is going to have to wait before going in the Hall of Fame. So
I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I think athletically he was a lock for the heavyweight championship at one time, but I don't know if the character just athletically. You're saying that he wouldn't have been able to do it.
I don't
I think
know.
he would have been able to do it.
The thing is that a guy is at the mid card for so long.
And that's the problem. He was at the mid card for so long, and he's got that gimmick that he saddled with the Goldust gimmick. I love it to death, but I don't know if they would have pushed that. But then again,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have been upset if they did it, but I don't think.
I wasn't clamoring for it, but he's one of the most athletically gifted wrestlers there's been in a long time. I mean, he was smooth and quick and everything else, and he knew how to work. But he's kind of one of those. He's really great technically, and he's one of those guys that was kind of in between the old kind of era and the.
Right, I mean, well, he's gone through the new generation, through the Attitude Era, through Ruthless Aggression. Oh, maybe he wasn't there for that, but I mean, like, he's gone through like 4 or 5 eras, and in different variations of employ with the company.
He's held up.
Yeah, so I don't blame him at all.
He's been through bouts with Rick Rude. I want to say Steamboat. God, he's fought Vader. He's fought Steve Austin, Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, he's fighting some new talent like Fandango and Tower Breeze. Not like, the guys that people are clamoring over at this point, but those guys could potentially be part of the future if, they wanted to take those gimmicks off of them or run with them. I mean, they're super talented, but, he's seen a lot. So, he's his own man, and he's got to do what he's got to do.
Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. I always get the Battle of Los Angeles and the Best of the Super Juniors because they're so close in letters. The Best of the Super Juniors. Yeah, the Best of the Super Juniors taking place starting this past week, and we have already gotten some insane matchups. My pick for match of the week, as we see here and as I listed on the website, was Kushida and Kyle O'Reilly. Which was kind of a cheat because, I mean, it took place kind of like last Saturday, but I really wanted to mention it because it was just a spectacular matchup between those guys. There have been some really, really high-quality matches. Even Ryusuke Taguchi in his opening match against, I got to look it up here, caught off guard. Matt Sydal was a really good match. Taguchi and Matt Sydal. There have been a number of really high-quality matchups, but the one that everyone is talking about is the Ricochet and Will Ospreay incredible match between the two of those, and the insane spots that they did during that. Just absolute incredible display of athleticism, and that whole match top to bottom was very good. But there are some people who disagree and don't like the kind of high-flying style, and even people such as Vader were tweeting throughout the week that he thought that the spots looked too choreographed and whatnot. Minor, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I can see where he says they're too choreographed. I get that, but it doesn't make them any less impressive with what they did with them. I mean, I've still got to watch these matches, but I've seen the clip going around probably a million times of Ricochet and Will Ospreay doing their sequence, and that Death Valley driver on the apron was disgusting looking, and then they transitioned it to I want to say a reverse run. I don't know, but it was just
so it was Death Valley driver onto the apron. Ricochet went to throw Ospreay back into the ring. Ospreay did like the
spun around,
the spin around like Dalton Castle does, but then hooked him with a reverse Hurricane Rana, and then flipped Ricochet onto his head.
Yeah,
so.
Stuff like that. I mean, as choreographed as it seems, it still looks brutal all the same. The way I look at it, if you're going to tell a story, it's just one guy trying to one-up another one. He doesn't put too much thought into what he's going to do, so he's not giving it that extra emphasis.
Right.
So, he's not driving the guy down with the Death Valley driver. It's just kind of throwing him down quick and then trying to get him again quick to put him down. So he's trying to get something in, but they're going back and forth with what they're doing. So, eventually one guy's going to have to get that big move off. That's what they were going for. So it was a lot of chain wrestling, but unusual kind of chain wrestling.
Right.
with what they were doing because they're cruiserweight, so it's going to be different than what a big guy does.
Yeah.
Different sequences.
I mean, the thing is like, okay, so are we punishing them for choreographing the sequence because Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat like choreographed every single spot in their match?
I guess what they're saying is it's supposed to be believable.
It's supposed to look different? Because, I mean, nothing... That's the thing that always pisses me off. Nothing in professional wrestling is believable. An Irish whip isn't believable. You know, yeah, nothing is believable in pro wrestling.
Look at the catapult move.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that stuff is just ridiculous. So, I don't know. I just feel like... And there have been a couple good tweets. Ricochet made a pretty good statement about, kind of responding to the controversy. I heard another one saying, like, maybe... Senior Lariato, who does a lot of the GIFs for Twitter, which I'm actually going through right now if you're watching the video broadcast. These are from Kushida and Kyle O'Reilly's match, which was really, really excellent. He says, I don't know if the best of the Super Juniors tournament is where you're going for really technical, stiff wrestling. Like, it's a lightweight tournament. This is what lightweights do. I don't know if you're kind of looking in the wrong place for that. Shelton Benjamin said, you want to kill pro wrestling? You can do it in one easy step. Everybody works the same style. Enjoy the show. That's the thing, is that there's something for everybody, and just this ridiculous notion that pro wrestling is dying. Like, who's killing pro wrestling? Pro wrestling is more prevalent in terms of the fandom and as an art than it's ever been. Like, sure, okay, maybe, Monday Night Raw isn't pulling down an 8 anymore, but what is these days that isn't, The Voice?
You got the digital platforms anyway. I mean,
exactly.
What are you going to do? The ratings are dropping across the board.
Think about 20 years ago.
What is it, football that's getting the highest ratings?
Yeah. Think about 20 years ago, you could watch 4 hours of wrestling television a week if you watched a specific time or you recorded it on your VCR. Nowadays, you have on just cable television, you have 3, depending on your market, you have anywhere between like 3 to 4 different ones.
Different types of shows.
There's thousands of hours of stuff on YouTube and streaming services. Like the stuff that gets released in a week that you could potentially access, if you watched all of it, you couldn't do anything else. Like, there is dozens and dozens of hours of content that goes up every week, from WWE to fucking Kaiju Big Battle. Like, there's so much stuff you can see, and you couldn't see that stuff 20 years ago. Like, you can
TNA,
find
Ring
something
of Honor,
for you.
Lucha Underground, WWE, NXT, which is under the WWE banner. You got New Japan. You can go anywhere. I think I mentioned Ring of Honor. You got so many choices these days, and it's kind of a new golden age, I want to say.
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. Golden age of professional wrestling. This is the best time to be a professional wrestling fan. I don't care what anybody says.
We had WWF. We had ECW. We had those brands, and we grew up with that. We saw that. It was great. Those were your choices most of the time. We had tape trading too. We watched tapes,
right?
But it's we had to go out of our way.
It is the best time to be a pro wrestling fan. Far
Digitally, we had the digital platforms that you can go like that and get something that you want to see. Go, oh, I'm interested in. I heard something about All Japan from 1986. You can probably find it. I don't know if that was the year All Japan was around. Maybe I'm just having a brain fart, but
and the funny thing to me,
New Japan.
And the funny thing to me is that
Dragon Gate.
Vader is complaining about stuff being not realistic, but he worked in a promotion where guys would drop each other on their heads 25 times and then pop back up.
Exactly.
Come on, dude. Is it just because they're the lighter guys and you were a heavier guy and I don't know. Like, it's just, I feel like guys. I mean, Vader. I think he's coming from more of a genuine place that he. I don't think he's being really crotchety about it. It's just maybe it's just not his cup of tea. But like, you have guys like Jim Cornette and shit like that. It's just, I'm sick of hearing that pro wrestling's dying. It's not. It is whatever era you come from and you're bitching about this one. wrestling is better now than it was in your era. Whether you're from the Attitude Era, whether you're from the 80s, whether you're from the 70s, yeah, maybe it's not digested in the same way, and you're not, selling out thousands. And that's the thing too, is like, that's especially the lightweight style, because the lightweight style kind of has grassroots in lucha libre, and you go to Mexico and they're fucking filling 100,000 seat arenas, and they've been doing that for 75 years. Like, who are you to tell them that this is not professional wrestling when they're one of the originators of the art? Like, it is just so weird. Like, I don't understand why people think that wrestling has to be one thing, and I don't understand when people say that something isn't wrestling. Like, basically, if it involves a ring and ropes, and even that is kind of pretty loose, like, it's wrestling. Like, it's professional wrestling. And we've said it before, professional wrestling isn't a movie, it's the movies. It's not a television show, it's television. It is a medium to deliver art, and you can do that in whatever way you want, whether it's through something serious, silly, blood, guts, family-friendly. You can do whatever. That's all professional wrestling.
As long as you got a payoff at the end and you get the crowd behind you and they enjoy what they're seeing, it's not going to die.
No, it's never going to die, because people love it. It's art. That's like saying
promotions that will die.
That is like, again, that's like saying comic books are going to die. Like, that's like saying it's a new medium, that's like saying film is gonna die. It's ridiculous. It's never gonna die. It may become something different.
It's going to take on a new form.
Yeah, it may come in and out of the mainstream, but it's art. It's art. Art's not gonna die. There's no way it's gonna happen. I can see where
these guys are coming from, but
fuck them.
It's different. It's different now.
And another thing,
that's necessarily a great thing, but it's different, and you have things that you can enjoy out of it.
And another thing,
you don't enjoy this.
Another
thing
thing,
to enjoy about everything.
Another thing, Mr. Vader, one of the tenements of pro wrestling is to put on a good performance without hurting your opponent, and you were totally fine with breaking that rule, so maybe back off. Yeah, exactly. You were okay with smashing Mick Foley's face open, so maybe just don't be that critical of people who want to kind of do their own thing. Nonetheless, Best of the Super Juniors is a really great thing to watch if you are interested in light heavyweight wrestling. If you're looking forward to the Cruiserweight Classic coming up, you owe it to yourself to go watch the Best of the Super Juniors. Just really quick before we move on.
Pro wrestling is supposed to be fun, guys. Yeah. Remember that. So...
And right now, the standings for the Best of the Super Juniors, the people who are at the top of their blocks, Block A is being headed up by Ryusuke Taguchi and Matt Sydal, and Block B is being headed up by Ricochet and Trent Beretta. So that is who is leading right now. This will be going on for another couple weeks, I believe. So this is these are the ones that are doing it. Head on over to New Japan World. You can check out all of the shows that have gone up so far, and there's just going to be another ton of great wrestling junior heavyweight action coming through. And before we wrap things up, we will move on to an article that was posted by Mr. Miner earlier in the week discussing the 5 best and worst match stipulations. So let's talk about the bottom 5 real quick. And of course, go ahead and read the article. We'll have a link to this in the description and whatnot. And just head on over to the website and you can check it out over there. So the bottom 5, we have the scaffold match. We have the women wrestling in some sort of viscous liquid match. We have the bra and panties / evening gown / tuxedo match at number 3. Number 2 is the reverse battle royal, which is still, I think that's number 1 for me. And then number 1 is
I almost put it as number 1.
Number 1 is the King of the Mountain match for the worst ones.
Just the match can be good, the King of the Mountain match, but just something about the ending just really bugs the hell out of me. And what takes place during the match, the whole penalty box ordeal, it just really irks my nerves. Really gets to me.
Chafes your balls. Grinds your gears.
Chaps my ass.
Chaps your ass. That's the one I was thinking. Chasing my balls is, I think we should replace it with that. What chaps my balls?
It hedges my pubes.
Yeah.
It sets them alight.
Gets your panties in a bunch. Those are good ones. Let's see, top 5. Let's talk about. I'm trying to think if there's any like bad ones. I think like the blank on a pole match sucks personally.
I almost said that.
I hate those.
You can go so many ways for so many different things. It really depends on how you're feeling one day.
Yeah.
about a certain match. You can find one match type
Also,
be really crappy one day and find it to be really great the next time you
yeah.
look at it.
Also, not a huge fan of the strap match where you have to touch all four corners.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much, yeah, it's so contrived, and you have to do so much bullshit with that. It takes the flow of things away.
I almost said blindfold match.
Has there been more than one blindfold match? Wasn't the thing that there had to have been more than one of these matches for them to make your list?
Well, there was one with D'Lo Brown, and I'm not recalling at the moment who else was in it. It might have been Jeff Jarrett.
Okay, well then that would have been two, because Jake Roberts and Mick Martel. Yeah,
There
that's
was
for sure.
Rick Martel and Jake the Snake.
Yeah, let's take two of the best wrestlers we have and make it so they can't see shit. That's a bully idea, guys.
Wouldn't it be great if they put the bag with the snake on Rick Martel's head?
Woo! All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the 5 best. So we have the Iron Man match, Falls Count Anywhere, I Quit match, War Games, and the ladder match at number 1.
It was, and I'm just saying, it was really tough to kind of put these in order. Like I said, these are matches depending on how you're feeling one week to the next. But that's how I was feeling last week, especially coming off of WrestleMania, where I said, you know what, I'm tired of the multi-man ladder matches, but they killed it. I don't remember how many bad ladder matches there have ever been. I mean, I can still go back to '94 with Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels and watch that match again and again. I can watch the first one with Bret Hart.
Ladder matches hold up very well.
Even before, there was stuff in Stampede.
Jake Roberts and Junkyard Dog, I want to say, I think was the first one.
Something like that.
So I think the most interesting thing for me with these is no cage match, no Hell in a Cell.
I tried to pick one, and I picked War Games.
Yeah.
I was going to kind of lump them in together, but I figured War Games, it was that or Hell in a Cell.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to go with War Games. And those can change at any point. It could be Hell in a Cell one time, it could be War Games another time. But I think what really kind of sealed it for me is, for this particular article, is Hell in a Cell, it's probably had more duds in it than War Games. I mean, you've had a couple of matches that were lackluster. I want to say Triple H and Jericho years ago was kind of lackluster, where it ended on top of the cage.
Yeah, not all. A Hell in a Cell is not a grand slam. Even that Shane Undertaker one wasn't that great. Really wasn't.
Yeah.
So.
There was also one with, I want to say Triple H and Kevin Nash as well.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say Mick Foley was
the ref.
Yes,
Triple H and Kevin Nash, yep. That one was
okay.
Not good.
I'm not going to take anything away from them because Nash, his knees weren't really holding up well, but, for what it was okay. But I don't know if there was ever a real bad War Games match that I've watched.
Right.
I mean, some were better than others, but it always had that underlying tension in it that these guys wanted to kill each other. There was probably one bad match. It might have been the last one that I didn't enjoy too much that involved Warrior. But for the most part, the matches were pretty solid. I mean, you have one or two, but the Hell in a Cell matches, I'm not saying the majority of them were bad, but you had a few duds in there. But like I said, you can go back and forth between this at any point. You can say, well, I like Hell in a Cell better at this point. I like Hell in a Cell better at this point.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode because I have to be leaving shortly. Be sure to head on over to the website. We have the Raw recap posted up for last night, done by our own Mr. Daniel Peruzzi. We're going to have stuff going up throughout the week. The podcast schedule might be a little bit different because of the holiday and because we're testing out new things here. Probably still going to do a time warp, change the questions, the booking a better wrestler on Randy Orton. So much has changed. I think I'm going to have to kind of revamp it, but I still want to do something with that, or I might do a shorter one in the interim. But I'm just trying to do different things. We're experimenting with different types of broadcasting here. As you can see, we're doing a video for this. If you are listening to this on the podcast, just the audio, and you want to check out the video, if you want to check it out with us live, we're probably going to do it normally every Monday. Around 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time will probably be the regular time that we do this. and you can just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search YouTube for Changing the Questions, or you can get the link to our YouTube channel at our website, changingtheqs.com, which is changingtheqs.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do that at changingtheqs, which is at changingtheqs. If you want to follow us on Facebook, be sure to like us there. I'm going to especially recommend the Facebook because me and Miner were discussing something that we are going to be doing within the next couple months that is going to be kind of a big giveaway on our Facebook page. So if you like us now, you won't have to do it down the line, and you'll get links to all of the stuff that we put up throughout the week through our Facebook page. If you want to send us a good old-fashioned email, you can do so, changingthequestions@gmail.com. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're checking this out on YouTube, again, if you are on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening to this through iTunes or Stitcher or anything like that, be sure to give us a nice 5-star rating, say some nice words about us, and that's going to do it. For my partner, Mike Miner, my name is Paul Laporte, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.